With your permission, first of all, I'd like to start by saying that I'm very, very excited to be here. But also, this is a very special week for the innovation community in Israel, because on Thursday, at 4 o'clock in the morning, Israel is going to launch a spaceship that has a mission within 7 days to land on the moon. We're going to be the 4th country in the world to set a machine on the moon. It started as a Google X prize project that had a global competition. Those teams, which are non-state teams, will be able to set a spaceship on moon, will have a prize of $20 million. Lots of teams started, one in Israel, and ever since Google withdrew from their prize, nevertheless the project is on, and the spaceship is going to be hopefully landing on April 10, right after the Israeli election day, which is April 9. The same day, Kלכליסט and we are going to be in Manhattan for another conference, continuing what we are going to talk about today, which is scaling out and not scaling up. For many years, the Israeli companies were focused on startup. Initially, we developed technologies for global companies that came to Israel because we were living on an island so far away from the market. For us, introducing a product to a customer in the US was almost a mission impossible. You have to fly a very long distance. It's very costly. You have to bridge languages and cultures. You have to compete with customers, with vendors that know the customer better than you. And so we innovated for those who came to Israel. We were an island. But with the beginning of the digital age, which Nimrod spoke about, and I think also the WeInnovation talk was about, basically freed up Israel and turned it into a ship that can sail the ocean. And we started to innovate for the world. And ever since, we turned our startup mentality into scale-up mentality, growing companies. We were looking vertically how to grow our companies higher and higher. One of the books I read was by Peter Thiel, 0 to 1, saying that if you want to build a very big company, you have to scale up, but in a way that is completely differentiated than your customers, so you don't have to waste energy on differentiation. So better do something really, really big. SpaceX, Tesla. The kind of startups nobody else can start, and those are the 0 to 1 companies. But I think that the world now, with all the trends that people have spoken before me, are showing that there is a better or different opportunity to grow really great companies. And that is not by scaling up, but by scaling out. What do I mean by that? With your permission, I use 2 companies that Pitango invested in, which are operating in Berlin. The first one is a company called Via, which is an Israeli company that decided to reshape the way public transportation is offered in cities. They said that the bus system is rigid. You have to go to the stations, you have to apply to the same routing and scheduling that the system is offering you. And so people are running to the stations, they take lines, they exchange lines until they get from home to work and back. And we heard that more and more people are going to live in cities, giving up on their car. So Via decided to change that, and based on technology, make the bus come over to the corner near your doorstep, pick you up and drop you in another corner which is close to your office. So you can commute twice a day from home to work and back in an affordable way, in a shared ride. And actually, they started in New York, Chicago, Washington, D.C., and then they started to scale out. First, they did it by partnering with Daimler. They created Via Van, which started to do the same in Europe. So London, Amsterdam, and now Berlin through Berlin König, which is the service offered by Daimler and Via. You can use it here. I'm not promoting it, but you can use it. And now, Via continues to scale out to many, many more cities around the world by creating what we call Via in a box, a platform that can actually scale out to every city. Via today runs 50 cities by offering transit as a service to public transportation. And what I like about it is even though there is Uber and there is Lyft, there are so many cities, so many urban areas in the world that 0 to 1 doesn't force you to compete head-to-head and to differentiate yourself. Another company that we invested in was presenting here, David Shiraz, Van, which is also changing the way we live in cities and the way we work. Because when we go to a shared workspace and we are together, when we leave that shared workspace, we're alone again. When we're going home and we live in a community, we're again part of a community, but when we leave our apartment, again, we're out of the community space. But if we manage to look at the spaces in the city, where we work, where we live, where we spend our time together, and we create a different experience, then even if you have a very nice company such as Wonder that presented just before him, it doesn't mean that one company have to grow on the expense of the other. We can actually scale, Van and Wonder can scale at the same time. There are so many communities around the world that we can service and address. And as a matter of fact, what we have is a limitless market. Pitango today is looking for such companies. And if you want to understand what are those companies that are scaling out, few things you can understand. First of all, they don't have to be great on the expense of others. Secondly, if they do something good for people, the market is limitless. Every city, every community would like to have a Wonder or a Van. And of course, those that will be able to execute better will grow faster. But there's room for others. The third thing is you start to understand what is happening to us as investors and to us as companies. Pitango is also scaling out. On one hand, we have funds that are investing in growth, and we have here Edith from Pitango, so we're looking at growth companies. At the same time, we have funds that are focused on early stage technology companies. We have teams that are investing at seed stage and teams that are investing at the very last tail of growth, making those companies significant. And as we scale out our companies, we're scaling out our investment platform. I'm very happy to say that we already started to invest also outside of Israel. In a recent growth fund, we invested in Foursquare, which is a US company. In a recent venture fund, we invested in Graphcore, which is a British company. And this week, hopefully, we will complete our first investment in a German company, which is a fast-growing, late-stage company. So think about not only starting up and growing your business, but scaling out to new markets, limitless markets, and build great companies where one can grow not on the expense of others. I'd like to finish by inviting all of you not only to the April 10th event in New York, we will hopefully celebrate landing on the moon, but also come to Israel and visit the first innovation center that we created at the Paris Center for Peace and Innovation. It's an experience that demonstrates how one can transform herself or himself from an old world where human beings grew strong on the expense of others because we relied on the land and natural resources, to a new age where our strength is driven from our brain power. And the more we build companies that can scale out and service human beings, we can also have a competition that is peaceful and very, very rewarding. Thank you.